Hello, BookTube, and welcome to episode 13, I think it is, of Hours in My Library. And today we're back or this week, we're back in London, which is going to be a lot of books, I think. There's a lot of interesting books I have on London, but I'll try to space them out a little bit. But we're back in London today with The Color of London. It was published, originally published in 1907. This is what they call, it's a 1914, a new edition. I don't know if there, or new impression. I don't know if there's any changes with it. It's got a text written by W.J. Loftie. The full title is The Color of London, Historic, Personal, and Local. And he goes through various chapters about the tower, sort of chatty. Again, it's very chatty, and names of streets, the boundaries of London, and so forth. It's basically the city of London. And W.J. Loftie lived from 1839 to 1911. So when this new impression was out, he had already passed. He was a clergyman, and he wrote a whole string of books about the history of London, and even sort of folklore and gossiping, sort of historical about London. It's illustrated by Yoshio Markino, who was a Japanese artist. It's in watercolors. He's a Japanese artist that lived in London. He lived from 1869 to 1956, or mid 50s. And you can see this just lovely frontispiece in watercolor. And it's at night. It's night lights in Piccadilly Circus. And he loved the fog of London, and you can see it throughout, and I'll show more in a moment. And he wrote an essay. The introduction was written by an M.H. Spielman, and I think it's Marion Spielman. Was an art critic. He lived from 1848 to 1958, or 1858 to 1958, or somewhere around there. He was like 90 years old. But he was editor of the Connoisseur and the Art magazine in London. So he does an introduction. Getting back to Markino, a Japanese artist, he was one of a few sort of expatriate Japanese artists living in London. And I believe he was like friends with Arthur Rackham and many other artists at the time. But yeah, it's just lovely. And I love the night scenes and the fog that he just captures the feel of, when you see these old photographs. But this is watercolor. This is Christmas shopping in Regent Street. And I'll take a bit of time showing those. And he does even sort of sepia ones that are more night, and they're sort of washed out with all the fog going into the background. Just wonderful. They have so much life to them. And here's tea on the terrace of the House of Commons. And it just goes on. Here's Cale Street, Chelsea, in snow, January 1907. So he was writing it or painting the illustrations right up to before it was published. And here we got On the Underground, Baker Street. It's just, you see the smoke, fog sort of rolling in with the trains. It's just wonderful. And here's the Serpentine Autumn. Serpentine? Yeah. And it's just a very bleak scene, but it's just fabulous. And here's another one, Marble Road, Chelsea, Saturday night. And it's another sepia uh, watercolor. They're just, yeah, I'm just sort of waxing over them because they're just so amazing. These watercolors. Let's see if we can find a couple more maybe before I. Let's look at the boundaries. Here we go. We got the winter afternoon Chelsea embankment, and you can just picture being there. And maybe one more. We'll find another one here. There we go. Spring in Onslow Square. Just beautiful colors. The way the light is. Yeah. So there ends episode 13 with the Color of London, nicely decorated cover and gold embossed on the spine. It's just lovely. And next week I'll have another book. And I'll try not to make it London for next week. As I say, I'll try to mix them up. But anyway, take care, BookTube.